are you and what is your connection to the Out at Cambridge study?
So my name is Lucy Brazg and I am the lead fundraiser for the School of Humanities and Social Sciences, and the Department of Sociology forms part of that. So for a few years, I've been working with the head of department, looking at how we might fundraise for a much expanded programme around LGBT studies. And a little while ago, Sarah told me about the first piece of work that the team were doing, looking at the experience of LGBT students at Cambridge. And she and I realised that that would give us something really powerful that we could discuss with potential donors, particularly with alumni, so they could think about their own experiences with regard to the situation now, and we would be able to understand what was good and what was bad about the changes that were happening in Cambridge and where we wanted to travel.
What was the Out at Cambridge study trying to do?
So my understanding is that the thinking behind the study was to get a really true picture of people's experiences at Cambridge. Some people were looking back towards their long service at the university because it included members of staff as well as students. For others, it was very much a snapshot of where we are now, and the true experience of disclosing on sexuality at Cambridge and living in the wider university community.
Do you think the study succeeded in its objectives?
So from a personal perspective, I found the study absolutely fascinating. But what was exciting for me is that the people that I talk to, so potential donors and alumni that I want to engage more closely with the university, they found it fascinating. And immediately for them, it brought back their own experiences and they wanted to compare and contrast. There were things they wanted to celebrate about the changes that were happening in the university, and there were things that concerned them and that they felt still needed to change. So for me, it was the most wonderful conversation starter. It brought the living university into the focus of the kinds of people I need to talk to.
Why is the Out at Cambridge study important?
I think it's hugely important. There's a symbolic importance, which is the university saying this is something we care about. This is a community, a part of our community that we perhaps haven't served well in the past, and that we really want that to change. And that really mattered from my fundraising perspective, but it just matters morally and ethically as well. And as a member of the university community, for me, that felt important. I want to be part of that kind of organisation. So I think that's very important to people who are members of the LGBT community and those who aren't. In fact, funnily enough, I think symbolically, a piece of work like this, especially one that's sort of a rigorous piece of research work, is important to all different parts of our community, particularly those that have felt excluded in the past, because there are many other communities who will have experiences that mirror those of our LGBT staff and students. And I think the demonstration that the university cares enough to invest in this kind of research and do rigorous Cambridge research on a matter like this has importance to other groups as well.
Has the Out at Cambridge study made a difference at Cambridge?
I think it's made a very significant difference. And I'm just going to talk about a few specific things that I think have happened. So in my own part of the university, in the development office, I think we've recognised that one of the important things is senior people speaking up about disclosing their own sexuality more publicly in their working lives, but also introducing celebratory events into our year. We've started to celebrate LGBT Awareness Month. We've started to do any sort of potential event where we feel that there's an opportunity to celebrate diversity in our community. So that's something very specific. For me, in terms of fundraising, it has led to the creation of an informal network of donors and alumni who want to see this area of research grow in Cambridge and also want to support network, the LGBTQ at CAM network, which provides a sort of support system within the university. So that's been really exciting. And there's some wonderful volunteers within that group who are really taking on the idea of fundraising in that space themselves. And I think the report has been really important to them as a tool and as a symbol. I think it's also been useful to the alumni network that's set up. We have a new Cambridge alumni network, LGBT alumni network, that has met for the first few times. It's totally alumni driven. And I think the report has been one of the stimuli that has really helped get that off the ground. So I'm really grateful for that. I think that's something very important for Cambridge. And I think in a broader sense, it's allowed Cambridge to demonstrate that it welcomes diversity and that it's an open and inclusive environment. And that's a challenge for an 800-year-old institution. And I think that an initiative like this helps us chip away at that. And that matters because we want the brightest young people to come to Cambridge, whoever they are, irrespective of their ethnicity, of their socioeconomic background, of their sexuality. And the more diverse that group is, the better for Cambridge. Everything that I've ever read tells me that if you want solutions to difficult questions in every aspect of intellectual endeavour, in science, in the arts, in the humanities, you need different minds and people from diverse backgrounds. You need different eyes to look at those problems through different lenses. And that's why Cambridge needs to be diverse.
What were some of the findings you found most important or interesting?
I was very moved by some of the personal accounts. I loved that people's own voices came through, particularly the accounts of people who felt that there were no people within their institution who openly disclosed their sexuality. I suppose I've always personally thought that one should keep one's private identity out of one's professional self. And I think the report really changed my mind about that. That actually there are parts of your personal identity that are really, really important to the people around you, and that speaking up about those mattered.
What are things you think have been left out or underemphasized?
I don't think it's left out, but I wonder if also we need to go through the process of allowing our students and staff to imagine their future and what the future would look like more, giving them more space and time to tell us what a wonderful university of the future will look like. I'd love to see that kind of future thinking and aspirational thinking.
Do you think the study will have a lasting impact?
I do. I think it was a milestone for Cambridge. I think it's the start of a journey, but I think we will also come back to look at the work, the research findings, and compare and contrast our performance in the decades to come with the situation at the moment that the research was done. But I think also that some of the sort of, I suppose, almost movements that it's triggered. So the creation of the Alumni Association, I think will be a lasting thing. I think that's growing and will only grow more. But also the creation of a small group of donors and volunteers who want to find ways to sustain this work. I think that will continue to snowball and grow. I hope that what that will lead to is the establishment of a professorship in LGBT studies. That's my personal aspiration. I think that would be a remarkable thing for Cambridge. And I think if it's endowed in an 800-year-old institution, that means that forever we have an academic champion in that space who will make sure that we're doing fantastic research on LGBT studies. That's my hope, and I hope that the report was the start of the journey towards that.